Hey, what's up guys? Eddie Henry XR Lifestyles discussing meal timing for optimal fat loss today, which is ultimately how to control insulin between meals to effectively burn fat. And as you remember from the last video, you cannot burn fat effectively while insulin is raised. And two, it typically takes about 2 hours after a meal for insulin to drop enough to effectively burn body fat. So before I tell you the way to do this most effectively, I'm going to share a couple ways that aren't so effective at burning fat. Number one, eating every 2 hours or eating every hour. So this is good for a couple things. It's good for performance, it's good for energy, it's good for gaining muscle, gaining weight. But if you think about it, if it takes 2 hours for insulin to drop enough to burn fat effectively, but you're eating every 2 hours, then your insulin's never low enough to effectively burn body fat. Second way that's not effective is grazing. This is kind of a fad right now. I'm grazing, Eddie. Ooh, okay. What I consider grazing is 1 or 2 big meals a day and then kind of picking or grazing at things all day long. Again, kind of get a big insulin spike with that first meal, and then as you're picking, your insulin levels stay elevated just enough to not effectively burn body fat. So the most effective way to time your meals, if your goal is fat loss, is to eat every 3 to 4 hours, obviously in a very nutritious way. And let me take a step back. If you want to be lean and mean for life, you have to effectively burn fat while you exercise, you have to effectively burn fat while you sleep, and you have to effectively burn fat while you eat. And this is how you do it. So if you're eating every 3 to 4 hours and it takes 2 hours after your last meal to drop that insulin low enough to burn fat effectively, then you have an hour or two where your body is actually going to use fat as fuel before your next meal. The problem with this is the body does not like to use body fat as fuel. It's not efficient at this. It would rather use sugar. So when the insulin starts to drop, you're going to start to feel fatigue. You're going to get a little bit hungry, might get a little bit grumpy. What I typically do is have a natural source of caffeine about 2 hours after my meal or about 2 hours before my next meal. And to give you an example of this, if I eat a meal at noon, come about 2:30, I'm going to have maybe a 20 or 30 ounce green tea. And this is going to accomplish a couple things. Number one, it's going to give me energy when I start to get fatigued from that dip in my insulin. Two, it's going to help curb my appetite because I'm drinking so many fluids before that next meal. And three, study after study show that caffeine does help the body oxidize fat more efficiently. So if your goal is to be lean and mean, you're going to want to eat every 3 to 4 hours. But before that meal, before you crash, be prepared and have a natural source of caffeine to help get you through this, guys. If you enjoyed this video, like it on Facebook, subscribe to my channel, Eddie Henry, at YouTube, and as always, check out XR Lifestyles for the latest news. Stay lean and mean, guys.